All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. Normally, we haven't done a live show since the World Series, but because we're rewinding and recapping the World Series, we are back. My name is Jeff Spiegel. I'm joined by DodgerBlue.com editor Matt Moreno, and it's going to be a fun one tonight. But Matt, let me start with a very simple question. And how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm looking forward to this live show and getting kind of, some questions and feedback from fans. And for me personally, it'll be fun to kind of actually, and it might sound a little funny, but talk about the World Series because you and Daniel obviously do a great job with the post-game shows when I'm busy kind of watching the Zoom press conferences. So I feel like this is my first chance to kind of dive into everything again.
Exactly. And we already, the first comment here is asking how so Daniel is not feeling well. He is not have COVID. I'll just say that right up front, but he's recovering a little bit. His Twitter game is very strong. I'll say that. His Twitter game remains strong through the sickness. But we're excited to be with you tonight. And yeah, I mean, I'll admit, as I was prepping for the show, it was really fun to go back and watch highlights to sort of scour box scores, play-by-plays, kind of relive this. Lots of moments, as we'll get to, that I realized I had forgotten. Moments that maybe didn't feel significant at the time, but in hindsight, were really, really huge. And before we get into that, one other thing I was thinking, 3.5 weeks since the Dodgers won the World Series, I find myself with little reminders here and there of like, oh yeah, the Dodgers did win the World Series 3.5 weeks ago. Have you had any of those, Matt? Anything that has sort of perked the reminder? And if you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube or Periscope, by the way, please join in. Are there things that you have had happen in the last 3.5 weeks that have reminded you of the beauty and the joy of being World Series champs?
Not too much. I will say that it's starting to feel a little bit more real now as the time has passed. I think for about the first maybe 10 days or so, it didn't feel like the Dodgers had won the World Series. Like it almost felt like I was just waiting for them to play another playoff series.
Yeah.
As strange as that might sound, but it is kind of setting in now. And obviously, and I think what helps for me and you also obviously as well is we have to kind of cover the off season
Yeah.
handlings of the team and the different business and stuff like that. So as much as you want to try to enjoy, the World Series win, you kind of move on at some point, but not tonight.
Not tonight. It's funny. I was hanging out with some friends today that I haven't seen in a long time. And one of them was like, oh yeah, Jeff, congratulations. The Dodgers won the World Series. I obviously live in Portland, so not a ton of Dodger fans up here, although there are a bunch. And I was like, you know what? They did win the World Series. And let me tell you about it. Let me tell you about the last 3.5 weeks when I've gotten to enjoy it. Of course, I have one shirt. So receiving my first World Series piece of gear, that was a big one for me. I've got a bunch of other stuff, newspapers, shirts, that kind of stuff in the mail headed my way. So that'll be a nice trickle effect. I bought a hat from Lids that is not due to be here till December 30th. December 30th. There was some talk about how the first batch of those that got sent out looked. So I'm hoping mine looks a little bit better of that. But speaking of gear, it's not World Series specific gear, but we do have a giveaway. So we hope you join us and stick around. Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're giving away, and then I'll share some details about how we're going to do that.
Yeah, so thanks to our friends at Franklin Sports, they provided us with some Jackie Robinson batting gloves. They are unisex. The only thing is they're a size medium.
Okay.
So other than that's kind of the only information I think our listeners need to know, and we'll ship them to you after you'll give them how the contest and kind of trivia is going to go.
So you said Jackie Robinson batting gloves?
Jackie Robinson Day batting
gloves. Jackie Robinson Day batting gloves. Sweet.
And they do have the 42. I don't know if you guys can kind of see it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We got white and blue Dodger colors. So stick around. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the 6 games of the World Series. Spoiler alert, the Dodgers win at the end of game 6. And at the end, I've got some trivia questions about the World Series. And I've got about 6 of them. So whoever kind of does the best on those, I'm going to grill Matt. And if you can do better than Matt and whoever gets the high score, we'll send those your way. The only rule is you've got to be subscribed to our YouTube channel, so you can ring the bell on that one to sign up for alerts and to subscribe. And then also just follow us on Facebook or Twitter so that you can send us your information. But let's dive right in. And one of the things I wanted to do before I went back and rewatched this was what were kind of the keys of the series to me? I know you, Daniel, and I did a show right going into the World Series of like, what were the Dodgers win if? And I remember one of my questions, which it'll be fun to talk through, was the Dodgers bullpen. Trinan had an ERA over 4 going in. Gratterall had an ERA going in over 4 going in. Jansen had actually been pretty good. Baez had been pretty good. A couple guys that shockingly will show up here in our conversation a little bit, but every reliever on the Dodger roster had given up a run. There were questions about what do you get out of Kershaw. He was obviously starting in game 1, but in the previous series, he had missed his scheduled start because of back spasms. Do you get anything out of Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May, which you hadn't already? And then obviously, what do we get out of Julio Urias? What was his role going to be after the dominant performance? And so do you remember looking back, were there any things that jumped out to you heading into the series of sort of what you were looking for and kind of what were the keys to the series?
Yes, I remember for me, telling you guys that it was going to be important for Justin Turner, Max Muncy, Cody Bellinger to really start hitting. And, I understand that in the postseason, there is definitely the value of a walk, and the Dodgers epitomized that and showed how valuable that could be. But I was a little concerned that unless, 2 of those 3, if they didn't kind of start hitting to the level that you sort of expect,
Yeah.
it was going to be kind of tough sledding for the Dodgers, because if they're not necessarily getting the hits, then where were they going to come from further down the lineup? And I think, you did see Turner kind of get going. Muncy, Bellinger obviously had the home run early in game 1, but I think he ended up being affected by his shoulder,
Yeah.
which he has since had surgery on
Yeah.
and is expected to make a full recovery by spring training. But yeah, that to me, I think was, if not the biggest key, one of the biggest keys.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And let's just jump right into game 1, which looking back, was the easiest, was the smoothest, was the probably, I'll say the most enjoyable only because it was the least stressful. And the headline that I'll say to game 1 before we kind of walk through this is, I think we all should have realized the Dodgers were going to win the World Series after game 1 because of all the things that kind of went right for them. And it started with the first inning. Clayton Kershaw's on the mound for the Dodgers. He's got 2 guys on with 1 out. He gets a strikeout, he gets a ground out, he gets it of the inning. That's a big deal for Kershaw to begin with. But this is when I had a good feeling. First and second, 1 out, he gets the strikeout of Renfroe. Then Manuel Margot comes up. Margot is blazing fast. This is a guy who tried to steal home, obviously. This is a guy who had a ton of stolen bases. He hits a dribbler that Kershaw has to come off the mound to the third base side for. He grabs it, he hops off the mound, he grabs it, but he can't get the ball from his glove. He has to double clutch, grips it, and then just rips it over to first base, on a line, and gets him. And I remember thinking, first of all, phew, and second of all, thinking to myself, that feels like the type of play that Clayton Kershaw historically in the playoffs messes up. Those are the types of things that go away from Kershaw. Either he throws the ball away or he doesn't get the runner on the double clutch. But with all the pressure of the moment, a runner on first, a runner on second, 2 outs, Margot, a fast runner there, for him to be able to make that play, to me, felt like a really big deal. And you see it. He gets a 1-2-3 inning in the second, third, and fourth from then on. And then the offense kind of comes alive. In the bottom of the fourth, Cody Bellinger 2-run home run. Again, the context here is important. Cody Bellinger jacked up his shoulder in Game 7 of the NLCS. Nobody really knew how that was going to play out, and yet here he is in Game 1 of the World Series doing what? Absolutely mashing a ball to right center field. The Dodgers go up 2-0. Kiermaier gets one off of Kershaw in the 5th, but Kershaw had retired 13 in a row to that point. 2-1 Dodgers, and then things bust open. Mookie starts off the 5th with a walk, steals second, gets everybody free tacos. Corey Seager walks. Justin Turner strikes out, but there's a huge double steal there. Muncy grounds to first. Mookie scores. Will Smith RBI single. Taylor RBI single. Kike RBI single. 6-1 Dodgers. Mookie gets a home run. Muncy an RBI double. And it's 8-1 by the time Kershaw comes out of this game. And I want to talk about Kershaw in a minute, but Kershaw comes out in the 7th for Floro. Floro kind of gets himself into a little bit of trouble. But again, this was another huge moment because Floro comes in, he gets out of the jam for Kershaw, comes back in the next, strikeout, single, double. And then all of a sudden, Victor Gonzalez comes in, gives up an RBI single, gives up another RBI single. It's 8-3 with 2 runners on. And then another key moment, line drive right at Victor Gonzalez. He sticks his glove out. It lands in his glove, turns around, fires, and gets a guy second. And all I can ask is, how did we not know we were winning the World Series at this point? The play with Kershaw in the first, the play with Gonzalez at the end of it. And from there, it's easy sledding. The Dodgers win 8-3. But as we look back at this one, Clayton Kershaw, 6 innings, 2 hits, 8 strikeouts. Now, we talk a lot. Everybody remembers the start that Walker Buehler made later in the series. I think this was the best start of Clayton Kershaw's career. And when you compare it to Buehler's numbers, we're talking about the only difference being 8 strikeouts versus 10. So unbelievable stuff from Kershaw. Again, he retired 13 in a row at one point. Game 1 of the World Series was absolutely huge.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say the best start of his career, because I still think Game 1 of the 2017 World Series, when he just overpowered the Astros, I put that one ahead.
Fair.
But it definitely was, sort of the vintage kind of performance that we saw in 2017 and the earlier years in his career, and it was encouraging to see for the Dodgers. I mean, as much as you and I have discussed ad nauseum on the show, Kershaw's been the victim of a lot of bad luck in
Yeah.
the postseason. And, his numbers aren't really what they don't tell the full story. I mean, there's XYZ reasons why it is what it is.
Yeah.
But that Game 1 start against the Rays, I mean, his slider, they were swinging over the top of it. They didn't really have much of a feel for him, and that was key. And that play that you discussed about him coming off the mound,
Yeah.
those are the types of plays where he would, for whatever, it's the soft singles that end up loading the bases type thing, right?
Yeah.
And that could have easily been another one of those moments, and for whatever reason it wasn't. Winning a World Series, I think there is a little bit of luck involved, definitely along the way, and the Dodgers had it. And I mean, they not to say they weren't a great team by any means, but you do need those little bounces to go your way.
I mean, do you find it interesting that nobody really remembers Kershaw? I mean, maybe I shouldn't say nobody. Everybody talks about Buehler's start later on in this series. I don't hear a lot of talk about how great Kershaw was in Game 1. And again, the box scores line up with one another. I mean, we're talking about a 2 strikeout difference. That's basically it. And to retire 13 in a row, to get the Dodgers off to this type of start that he did, I feel like that's a moment that I underappreciated. And maybe I'm alone in that. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I think that's fair to say. I don't know if it's necessarily. I think it just gets lost in the shuffle, because then he came back.
Yeah, that's true. He had 2 starts.
And he gutted out that perform. It wasn't what Game 1 was, but he still gutted it out, and the Dodgers won that game.
Yeah.
Which they obviously needed. And we talked about, as much as they tried to remove any one player, whether it was Mookie Betts, Justin Turner, Clayton Kershaw, from feeling the burden and feeling like they have to carry the team.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, here Clayton Kershaw was for Game 5, pretty much having the entire weight of the world on his shoulders again, because if they lose that game, you're down, 3-2.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can ask the listeners and the viewers who are watching this why they think. I will agree with you that his Game 1 start gets overshadowed, but I think it just gets lost in the joy that everybody has for Kershaw just winning a World Series with the Dodgers.
And I think you make a good point. He made 2 starts, so Buehler only had 1. He was dominant in his, but that is a big one. So the Dodgers jump out to a 1-0 series lead. Again, comfortably, 8-3 win. You've got the Kershaw off the mound moment. You've got the Victor Gonzalez liner right back at him moment. You've got Bellinger's home run. There's lots of key moments there that, again, I look back on and laugh and say, how did we not know? Like, those are the types of things that happen when a team wins the World Series. So Dodgers up 1-0. They come back in Game 2 with Tony Gonsolin on the mound, Blake Snell for the Rays. We obviously know how that storyline will play out, but Gonsolin continued to struggle. Brandon Lau gets a home run in the second batter of the game. This was a guy who had been struggling big time. The Dodgers did not want to get going. He does. Gonsolin comes back out for the second, but doesn't make it all the way through. Dylan Floro has a big moment there, though, where he comes in and he gets Margot thrown out at home. Adames cut stealing. And that wasn't the only time that Dylan Floro would kind of have a big moment where he's called in to shut things down. Blake Snell, on the other hand, as expected, was great. He had 6 strikeouts through 3, 8 through 4. And things looked to be going the Rays' way pretty considerably. Dustin May was sort of a mess. He comes in with 2 outs and runner on first. Single, double, ground out to make it 3-0. He gives up a 2-run home run to Lau in the 5th. All of a sudden, it's 5-0. And it feels like, okay, the Dodgers blow them out in Game 1. Are the Rays going to blow them out in Game 2? But I thought this was one of those moments that sort of showed you the type of team that the Dodgers had. Snell is dealing. You're down 5-0. An easy opportunity to kind of roll over, except he doesn't. The Dodgers draw a 2-out walk. Chris Taylor hits a 2-run home run to cut it 5-2. Mookie Betts walks, Corey Seager single, and then Anderson comes in to strike out Turner. But I made a note to myself, Snell got to see the lineup a third time in Game 2. And the first 2 batters he faced for a third time were Mookie Betts with the walk and Corey Seager with the single. then Anderson comes in. So it's just one of those things that you don't pay attention to the first time, but you start to see some of these things. Like, is Kevin Cash making note of this? He finishes with 4 2/3, 9 strikeouts, 2 earned runs. Joe Kelly gives up a run in the 6th to make it 6-2 Rays. Will Smith gets a home run in the 6th. Corey Seager in the 8th. They cut it to 6-4, but that's as close as it would get. The Dodgers lose game 2. This is probably, I mean, not even probably, this is the most forgettable game of all of them because it's one of 2 Dodgers losses, and it isn't one that ended in like historically painful fashion. Is there anything you'll remember about this game? I mean, literally anything at all that you'll remember about game 2?
No, not too much. And before you said it, I had forgotten that it was Nick Anderson who came in
Yeah.
after Blake Snell, and I feel like we're going to see that a little bit later in the series. I won't give anything away.
Yeah, please don't. Please don't.
Um, no, just kind of looking back on this game, it's a testament to the Dodgers that, like you said, they fought back, and I don't want to necessarily say almost won, but we're in position to maybe kind of steal it late because literally everything went wrong. Tony Gonsolin, they were expecting a short start anyway, but not that short.
Yeah.
Dustin May, he continued to struggle as well. It was just anything that kind of could go wrong for them on the pitching side sort of did.
Yeah.
Uh, and they still, kind of almost they chipped away at their deficit. Obviously, just didn't get enough.
Yeah, yeah, and looking in the comments here, Swagmaster Dank, who is a loyal follower of us throughout the postseason, he thought it was going to be a sweep after game 1, and I don't think he was alone. I was probably on here calling for a sweep. I said some crazy things after that, for sure. But one person says, when I would watch the pregame for the World Series and even the NLCS, we kept saying that they would need a Gibson play. What would you say that the Gibson moment was for the Dodgers? That's Parker Onko asking that question. And I mean, you and I have talked about this a little bit offline. I actually don't think there was one in the World Series. I stand by the fact that I think the moment that I will remember most out of anything, the closest they got was Cody Bellinger's home run in Game 7 of the NLCS. I felt like that's the moment that I'll have etched in my mind. That's not the World Series. It wasn't quite as dramatic, but it was a 7th-inning home run to give them a lead in Game 7 of the NLCS. Do you agree? Is there a moment that's bigger to you that sort of the quote-unquote, I mean, there is no Kirk Gibson moment here, but as far as maybe the moment that you expect to see on the highlight reel for the rest of your life, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll keep it in the World Series, and because it happened in the World Series, and because it was in the clinching game, it's going to be Mookie Betts scoring from third base
Okay.
on that fielder's choice. To me, off the bat, because we'd already seen it in the playoffs, I knew that he was going to score easily. I mean, there was no question to me, and honestly, he scored easier the second time around than the first time, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of what I personally would pick as the Kirk Gibson moment, which was a great question, thank you for sending that in. I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think it's Bellinger's home run, and if I can kind of expand it a little bit, I would almost even do Walker Buehler's start against the Braves.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Last place says the Turner double play is a moment for him, which again, I think there's lots of those. Mookie Betts catches out in right field. I mean, it is funny looking back because I think somebody even commented on we did one of these for the NLCS. So if you haven't seen that, go back and watch that. But the NLCS I mean, that's was a far more memorable series as far as the baseball and the drama and that kind of stuff. Obviously, the Dodgers won the World Series. That's why we're here enjoying this and talking about this. But the NLCS was actually pretty crazy. And so, anyways, well, let's keep moving here. Game 3, Walker Buehler. And we've kind of hinted at this before, but this was an absolutely vintage Walker Buehler moment. The Dodgers get out to an early lead. Justin Turner with the home run in the first. Max Muncy with the 2-run single with 2 outs in the third. Austin Barnes, the squeeze play. No Austin Barnes squeeze play love for the Kirk Gibson moment, Matt. Shame on you. Or later in this game, Austin Barnes home run. But Mookie Betts gets a 2-out RBI single as well. And it's 5-0 in the 4th inning. And Walker Buehler was insane. He gives up 1 run in the 5th with a 2-out RBI double. Austin Barnes, as I said, adds a run in the 6th. Buehler strikes out the side in the 6th. The game is final at 6-2. Arozarena gets one off Jansen. But the story here is Walker Buehler. 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, 3 hits, 1 earned run. Treinen was perfect. Gratterall was perfect. Jansen allows 1 hit. 8 Dodgers reach base. And this one was, again, a pretty dominant performance. I said game 1 was as easy as it came. I guess game 3 belongs in the same category. The Dodgers are up 2-1, and things seem to be heading in the right direction.
Yeah, this game was kind of the turning point for Justin Turner. He said he'd been kind of working on some things mechanically at the plate, and he pointed to this game as when he kind of felt it sort of click in, and he repeated it in multiple at-bats. And we saw that end up playing out in the ensuing games. And for me, and I discussed this about the NLCS, I felt like because the World Series and the NLCS were played the way they were in, the quote unquote bubble, which I think we can no longer really call it a bubble, considering Joe Kelly has kind of shed some light on how that really operated. But that's a separate discussion. Um, Being the road team, I think, was
Yeah.
a big benefit because you could kind of, the Rays, the Dodgers, and the Braves were very good at kind of jumping on the other team early and sort of riding that momentum.
Yeah.
Uh, and I felt, the Dodgers benefited from that in the NLCS, and I think we saw it again play out in the World Series and definitely in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember saying that in one of the shows, asking Daniel, the team that scores first in baseball wins 70% of the time. Now, if there's no home field advantage, like, obviously the ability to hit first gives you a better chance of scoring first. So it's a fascinating thing to think about. And I'm not really totally sure how it all plays out because obviously home field advantage is a thing, but it is something interesting. So the Dodgers are up 2-1. And we get to game 4. Adrian mentions, by the way, the Will Smith home run on Will Smith. I think that's a close second for me. That's a moment in the NLCS that absolutely was massive. So moving on, World Series game 4. Interesting. Julio Urias is the starter in game 4 of the World Series. Another one of these things that I wonder how many people remember this. Of course, you might remember it because Dave Roberts said Urias originally was going to be unavailable for game 6 because of pitching in game 4. But Urias starts and was actually great. 4 2/3, only 2 earned, 4 hits, 9 strikeouts. So he gets 14 outs, 9 of them via the strikeout. And again, he's gifted a run early on. Justin Turner, 2 out, first inning home run, this time to center field in a bullpen game for the Rays. He gets it off Yarborough. Seager gets him in the 3rd, also with 2 outs. So the Dodgers are up 2-0. And Arozarena hits one in the 4th. And this kind of gets into this pattern that you'll notice me talking about, which is back and forth, back and forth. Muncy, a 2-out double. In the 5th, scores a run, and that's a huge moment because Max Muncy doubles, gets the RBI, throw into second. Muncy is safe until Adames pulls him off of the bag, gives him a bear hug, pulls him off the bag, which, hey, you might want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Well, since then, some video has come out to suggest maybe he doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt, I should say. But that's a huge moment in a game that's ultimately decided by 1 run in a series in which the Dodgers were remarkably good at hitting with 2 outs. That's a huge moment. It might not have felt like it totally at the time, but that gets the back and forth going. Renfroe hits a home run to cut the lead to 3-2. The Dodgers respond with a Kike RBI double, 4-2. Then the bottom half of the inning there is where things get dicey. Treinen puts 2 guys on, and our good friend Pedro Baez comes in. I say good friend because I love Pedro Baez. I argued for why the Dodgers should re-sign him. This was not his finest moment. This was Dave Roberts' worst moment. He comes in to face Lau, and he gives up a 3-run home run to give the Rays a 5-4 lead. This was a guy who couldn't hit a changeup, and Baez is throwing him a fastball with 2 strikes. He does get the next 2 guys out to get out of the inning. Now, the next top of the 7th, Jock is pinch hitting up with the bases loaded. He lines a ball towards the second baseman, Lau, in shallow right. This is where he kind of trips/dives. The ball goes off his glove. 2 runs scored, but again, a big moment. Cody Bellinger thrown out trying to advance to 3rd. Now, he does a good job of getting caught in a rundown, so the runs score, but that's a runner in scoring position the Dodgers left out there, but they do take the lead for 6-5. Now, Pedro Baez just gave up a 3-run home run, Matt. There's no way they bring him back out for the 7th inning, especially after telling him that he was done in the 6th, right? Well, wrong. Baez is still in. He gives up a home run to Kiermaier, and that 6-5 lead is now tied 6-6. In the top of the 8th, the Dodgers respond. Corey Seager, a flare to score Chris Taylor with 2 outs. The Dodgers are up 7-6. Now, this was 8 consecutive half innings with a run. 8 consecutive from the bottom of the 4th to the top of the 8th. Runs. Now, the Dodgers hold them scoreless in the 8th. The Rays, same in the 9th. And the Dodgers have a lead with Kenley Jansen on the mound in Game 4 of the World Series. We're all starting to dream, right? We're all starting to dream about Clayton Kershaw pitching Game 5 with the Dodgers up 3-1. It's going to be his moment. Well, Kenley Jansen was there first. Okay, first batter, strikeout. Second batter, broken bat. Absolutely saws the guy off into center field. Kike Hernandez gets about as close as you can to catching that ball. He doesn't. He gets a line out. So they're up by 1. There's a runner on first. Jansen's sort of limiting some contact. This seems fine. Arozarena comes up. Jansen gets ahead 1-2. He walks him. Well, don't worry about it. Brett Phillips is up. Brett Phillips, who's 0 for 2 in the postseason to this point. Brett Phillips, who in 2018 hit 187. Brett Phillips, who in 2019 hit 138. Brett Phillips, who in 2020 hit 196. How is this guy in the major leagues? Is all I could ask myself when I was watching his fan graphs. Okay. Now, I'll admit, the first time that I have seen this since watching it live was during this highlight. I had blocked this moment out of my memory. I never wanted to see it again. But because I'm a man of the people and because I believe in this show so much, Matt, I rewatched it. Okay. Kenley Jansen had Brett Phillips, who is not a good baseball player, down 1-2. Okay. He gives up a harmless liner. I mean, just a soft liner. I'm going to give Jansen a little bit of benefit of the doubt here, like broken bat single. He walks a Rosarena, which is fine. And then a harmless liner through the shift to center. Taylor gets casual and misplays it. Ball bounces off his glove. Then he grabs it and throws it to the plate. Now, I've never realized this. Why does Max Muncy cut this ball off? Like, I hadn't, like, it's not like it was bouncing. It's not like it was 3 bouncing. Muncy had to reach up to cut this off. He catches it. Decides, turns and throws, and now he launches towards Will Smith. Will Smith, of course, takes his eye off the ball to go to make a tag, thinking Rosarena is there. Rosarena is lying on the ground about 15 feet away. But again, Kenley Jansen is not where he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be backing the play up, in which case he would have just picked up the ball, and this whole thing would have gone away. But Jansen isn't there. The ball gets away, Rosarena scores, and Tampa Bay wins. The Dodgers were 1 strike away from winning against a guy who isn't any good, and 45 seconds later, they lost. 1 strike from 3 games to 1. Instead, it's 2 games to 2. They cut to Kershaw afterwards, and he's just got this "you've got to be freaking kidding me" look on his face. The Rays are losing their mind. Jansen's in disbelief. Game 4 was an unbelievable baseball game if you don't like the Los Angeles Dodgers. I never want to see it again. Like, I hope I never have to see that play. But, man, that was quite the baseball game.
Yeah, watching it kind of unfold the entire game, not just, the 9th inning, it reminded me very much of Game 5 of the 2017 World Series, which, the Dodgers obviously lost, but I thought was an entertaining baseball game at the time. I mean, my opinion of it has since changed dramatically, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers will agree. But yeah, I mean, so this reminded me of that, except I had the feeling that, I guess I thought back then the Dodgers were going to win Game 5 too, but I thought, okay, knowing that they lost that one in 2017, I thought this feels like it, except they're going to actually win this game.
Yeah.
And even when, kind of the first runner got on, I thought, okay, like, just don't necessarily let Rosarena beat you.
Yeah.
Which he didn't. And then that final play, I mean, it's obviously easier said than done. Taylor's usually pretty sure-handed.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily get the rush that he was in because
he wasn't,
the man on second was scoring no matter how clean and quickly you come up with that play, he's scoring.
Yeah.
There were 2 outs. He's running on contact. It was softly hit. So just get the ball in. I think he was a little too worried. I don't think you're really going to fire a dart to third.
Yeah, he was like casual. I mean, it was just sort of this casual, like, he forgot that there were 2. It was like, yeah, it's so bizarre because he was half hurried and half like totally nonchalant about it. It was very bizarre.
Yeah. And, Muncy cutting it off, I could take it or leave it. Will Smith did own up to it the next day. He said, I should have made that catch no matter what. So credit to him, for being a young player. He sat there and kind of faced the music and took the questions from the media. There were a lot of discussions on where Kenley Jansen should have been. If he is backing it up, to me, it's still a little bit dicey because since the throw is coming from right field, he probably is to Will Smith's left.
That's fair.
At least shaded that way a little bit. So he's not right in position to get the ball, but he's closer than he obviously was. And so maybe they do still get a Rosarena. Luckily, it's not something we need to sit here and continue to say, what could have been.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at the time, you've seen a lot covering the team, watching the team. I've seen a lot. I have never seen anything like that. And I couldn't really describe it in the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't. And, Dave Roberts, his reaction in the dugout, I thought was pretty classic.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel and I had to come on here and do a live show afterwards, and we both sat there like, I don't know what we're supposed to be doing. I will say that was the most watched show. I think we had like between 600 and 700 people join us that night. So there's something about pain that kind of unites people together.
Yeah, like the losses seem to bring everybody out, and I think the way that happened, obviously, Kenley Jansen's a bit of a lightning rod.
Yeah, Dave Roberts.
Dave Roberts. I think it's fair to question kind of his bullpen decisions throughout his career with the Dodgers. One thing that I think he is really good at is kind of managing people and at least trying to put the players in the best position to succeed. So it was strange for me to hear him admit, credit to him for revealing this, admitting that he had told Trevor
Yeah,
Byes that he was done.
I give him no credit. That is so stupid to have said out loud. Like, why you would admit that into a microphone is complete. Like, I mean, there's just no benefit to it other than your own personal mockery. I mean, maybe he's trying to protect his guy Baez, but ugh.
He's an honest man.
Yeah. I mean, I respect honesty. We joked on the show afterwards, like it was dumb to have done what he did with Baez, and it might have been even dumber to admit it. But to your point, let's stop talking about game 4 because the Dodgers lost and the next 2 games turned out a little bit better. Game 5, you kind of hinted at it. The storyline going in is this is the biggest start of Clayton Kershaw's career. The series is tied 2-2. This went from 1 strike away to, hey, this is going to be Kershaw's sort of defining moment. He's going to throw a gem in game 5. The Dodgers are going to win 4-1, and he's going to be the hero. Instead, now it's 2-2. The Dodgers sort of, at least fans are in disarray. I'm assuming the clubhouse, they got leadership and guys like Turner, but it couldn't have been the most positive thing. But Kershaw is there. Kershaw's the guy. He's got all the pressure. How would he perform? Well, the good news is he got some help from the offense. Right away, Corey Seager gets an RBI single to score Mookie Betts. He advances to second on a wild pitch, and then Cody Bellinger singles him in. Jock Peterson leadoff home run in the second. So just right off the bat, the Dodgers are up 3-0, which is huge. Now, the Rays get an RBI triple from Diaz in the third with 1 out. He scores on the next at bat. They get a strikeout and a caught stealing to end the inning, but it is 3-2 at that point. The Dodgers still leading, but it's closer than you'd like it to be. Bottom of the fourth is where things get really, really fascinating. He starts out with a walk, a stolen base. Chris Taylor, another error as the runner goes to third. Kershaw gives up a walk. So we've got runners at first and third with nobody outs. Then he gets a pop out. Then he gets a strikeout. Then maybe the defining moment of the World Series, Manny Margot tries to steal home. Kershaw's got his hands high. He even pointed out, he's like, I do my stupid thing with the hands up, and it makes it a lot harder to get a guy stealing. Muncy screams at him. He steps off and doesn't balk. He fires home. Austin Barnes tags him. I'll admit I thought he was safe. Like, I mean, I live, I thought he was safe. On replay, I thought he was safe. I needed about 8 replays to realize that the glove kind of glances the wrist and the forearm on the way up. But either way, in a 1-run game, the Rays had first and third with nobody out and got no runs out of it. The Dodgers come back in the top of the 5th. Max Muncy home run off Glasnow. 4-2. Again, I'll make a note. This was Glasnow's 3rd time through the lineup. Things start to get a little dicey. I'm just planting these seeds because as I'm watching, I'm thinking what Kevin Cash, what is he thinking? How does he get to the place where he makes the game 6 decision? Kershaw gets a 1-2-3 inning in the 5th. He gets the first 2 guys out in the 6th before Dustin May comes out. And I mean, Kershaw breaks this postseason strikeout record in this game. As we've said, it wasn't his best performance, but this was vintage. I mean, this was just grinding it out, getting strikes when you needed to, just soft contact, even without his best stuff. In the World Series, Clayton Kershaw was fantastic. Dustin May closes things out in the 6th, cruises in the 7th, gives up a leadoff single, and then gets an out before coming out in the 8th. Victor Gonzalez comes in. He gives up a walk. He gets a Rosarena and Lau both to fly out. The third out was a great play by Bellinger, but that was a big moment. I mean, this was a close game, and to have a Rosarena and Lau get both of those guys by Victor Gonzalez was huge. Blake Treinen comes in his 3rd consecutive day pitching and closes it out for the Dodgers, and the Dodgers win. So the Dodgers go up 3-2. I think the storyline there has to be Clayton Kershaw. It wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. And credit to the Dodgers for getting 3 early runs to sort of give him some space.
Yeah, I mean, like I kind of alluded to earlier, this start definitely wasn't what maybe you were expecting or obviously hoping for after watching him in game 1. And then that 4th inning, it kind of started to feel like, here we go again.
Yep.
Like here's kind of the prototypical 1 inning that ends up sort of dooming Kershaw in his playoff start. Credit to him for battling. And also, like you pointed out earlier, Corey Seager got the hit, I believe it was, right?
Yeah.
In the first inning?
In the first inning. And then Bellinger with another.
Seager, he obviously was, MVP of the NLCS and World Series, but his base running was phenomenal in that game, and getting himself in position to score, on Bellinger's hit was key. And I want to make sure, as much as this game was kind of, about Kershaw and kind of fighting through some of his postseason struggles. I think Seager deserves a lot of credit for advancing on balls that really didn't get far away.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a good point. Well, let's get to game 6, and I appreciate, Parker, I saw you put a question in there. We're going to get to it at the end. We do have a giveaway, some Jackie Robinson gloves, so stay tuned with us for that. But game 6, and this is the moment that Dodger fans will remember, breaking the streak of 32 years without a title. And it didn't start the way that you would want it to have started. Gonsolin is on the mound, and Randy Arozarena, I think on the broadcast they said flicked a home run to right field. That seemed accurate. This ball did not look like it was hit very hard. Somehow it gets out. But then, I mean, another moment that I had forgotten. Following that home run, he gives up a single, he gives up a walk, and then Gonsolin gets 2 consecutive guys to get out of that inning. I mean, that was a huge moment for a guy like Gonsolin that had been struggling. The second inning, kind of the same thing. 2 on with 2 out, Arozarena up, and Dylan Floro comes in. Again, is Floro the guy the Dodgers trust most? Probably not. I'll give myself a small pat on the back and say he's a guy I've been high on all year. I don't understand why he doesn't get as much love as maybe he deserves, but this is a huge moment. Dylan Floro versus Arozarena with 2 on and 2 out in a 1-0 game. Floro gets the strikeout. And from there, it became the Blake Snell story. He strikes out the side in the first. He strikes out 2 more in the second. He strikes out the side in the fourth. Through 12 outs, he had 9 strikeouts, and he was dominant. But he was being matched by the Dodger bullpen. So Gonsolin struggles. He gets bailed out by Floro. Your guy, Alex Wood, 2 innings pitched, no hits, no walks, 3 strikeouts. Baez, 2/3 scoreless innings. Gonzalez, 1 1/3 scoreless inning with 3 strikeouts. Gratterall, 2/3 scoreless innings. And then in the 6th inning, this is where all the drama comes in, right? Blake Snell in the 6th inning. The leadoff batter is A.J. Pollock. I went back and watched it. Snell made a mistake on the first pitch of the inning. He hung a breaking ball to A.J. Pollock that Pollock just missed. Okay, and Pollock struggled, so he got away with one there. Then Barnes comes up right after him and lines a ball to center field. 73 pitches, 2 hits allowed, and Blake Snell gets pulled from the game. Nick Anderson comes in. He had given up a run in 1,000 consecutive appearances, if my math is correct. Anderson in. He gets 2 ahead behind Mookie Betts, 2-0. Mookie doubles a ball down the line. Barnes holds it third. Wild pitch, he scores. Seager grounds to the first baseman, and Mookie Betts scores. The Dodgers are up 2-1. Now, the story from there is Julio Urias, right? He comes into the game, it's still 1-0. They're losing. He gets 1 out in the 7th. Then all of a sudden, the Dodgers are up 2-1. He finishes 2 1/3, 4 strikeouts, 0 base runners. Mookie Betts adds the insurance home run in the 8th. And the final pitch of the World Series, Willie Adames watching 97 miles an hour. Every time that highlight comes on, I say, hey, Willie, 97 right down the pipes, baby, it's coming. Keep looking. And he does every time. The Dodgers win the World Series, and there's a lot there. I mean, the bullpen, I think, is the hero of that game, highlighted by Julio Urias. Mookie Betts, the big run that you mentioned. Austin Barnes getting the hit. Kevin Cash, Mookie Betts home run. I mean, all those combined, the Dodgers are World Series champs.
Yeah, this I know we've discussed Kevin Cash's decision a little bit. We can kind of get into it again. I understand why he made the choice that he did.
Yeah.
And like Andrew Friedman said, the Rays got to Game 6 of the World Series by sticking to their plan, and that's, relying on their bullpen. That being said, I personally would not have removed Blake Snell at that point.
Yeah.
I think, especially, he had really dominated the top half of the lineup. I mean, Mookie Betts had uncharacteristically struggled against left-handed pitching this season.
Yeah.
He struck out both times against Snell already. But again, I can understand the decision. I just don't agree with it.
Yeah.
And Nick Anderson would not have been my choice to come in if you were going to remove Snell.
Yeah, and I mean, and Anderson was a guy they had trusted all year. He had just been bad for the last couple of weeks. So that's kind of what makes it so bizarre. But again, it all seems fitting for the Dodgers for another team to screw up their bullpen and for the Dodgers to win that way. I think it was fitting, and I've said this is poetic. The very first game of the season, the Dodgers won because Mookie Betts scored, sort of sliding under a tag with some great base running. The Dodgers end the season by going ahead in the World Series with the same exact thing. I remember after Game 1, we did a live show or a recorded show maybe, and I just said, hey, that's Mookie Betts. I mean, that's the beauty of Betts is he helps you in those moments. Well, he did it with defense in the NLCS, a couple big base running moments, the home run to finish it off, and the Dodgers are World Series champs. And so let's do this. Let's do the giveaway because I've got some trivia questions for you before we kind
Okay.
of put a bow on this. And so here's how this is going to work if you're watching us on Facebook or Periscope or on YouTube. I'm going to pose a question to Matt. I've got 6 questions. These are all statistics. Now, I'm going to trust that you're not cheating. Anybody at home is cheating, okay? We trust you. We believe in you. But I've got 6 statistical questions, and some of these might have the same person as the answer. But I'll start by asking Matt. I want you to throw your answers in the chat if you're following along. Whoever gets the most of these correct is going to get some batting gloves. Okay, does that sound good? Now, I recognize some of you are on Facebook, some on YouTube, so you'll just have to trust us on this one. But Matt, I'll start with this one. Who do you think in the World Series alone led the Dodgers in runs scored? I got 6 of these, by the way. How many do you think you're going to get?
Oh, man, I honestly I don't know. I'm gonna look to bat 500.
Okay, so you're predicting 3 for 6. So again, if you are following along, be sure to track here. So who do you think led the team in runs, Matt?
This is what's at stake for.
Yeah, hold them up a little bit higher. There we go. So we got some Jackie Robinson batting gloves for the winner here. Okay, who do you think led the team in runs?
I mean, it has to be Mookie Betts, right?
It does not actually have to be Mookie Betts because that's the
okay.
incorrect answer.
Well,
Under the Sea gets this one correct. And that is Corey Seager. 7 runs scored.
That was going to be my next choice.
Okay, so Under the Sea has got 1 correct. Max Muncy and Austin Barnes were other guesses there. Mookie Betts as well. So Under the Sea, you've got 1. Don't get too excited about yourself. We got 5 more of these, okay? Who do you think led the Dodgers in both slugging and extra base hits in the World Series?
Ooh, this is a good one.
And again, if you're tracking with us on YouTube or on Facebook or on Periscope, I want you to guess here.
Is this one Mookie Betts?
Okay, Mookie Betts is Matt's correct. It's Matt's answer. Excuse me. Let's see if anybody wants to guess. Parker agrees with you. He's going with Mookie Betts. Anybody else want to chime in here? Swagmaster Dank says Seager.
Seager, I felt like he sort of cooled off.
World Series only. World Series only. Yes.
Yeah, from the NLCS. At least with the extra base hits and the slugging.
Okay, well, we've got a point for Fred Flores because the answer is Justin Turner.
Oh, that was my gut choice.
You're 0 for 2 here, Matt. You're going to need to rebound. So Justin Turner.
I'm 2 for 2 if I stuck with my gut.
Justin Turner had a .720 slugging percentage and 6 extra base hits. He had 4 doubles and 2 home runs. So he is your answer there. Okay.
I forgot how many doubles he had.
So we've got 1 more hitting category, and then we've got 3 pitching categories. Who do you think led the Dodgers in RBI in the World Series?
I mean, this one I'll go Corey Seager.
Okay, Corey Seager is Matt's guess. Let's see what the folks at home want to throw in here. Let's see. Parker agrees with you. He says Seager as well. Give people a moment. Fred Flores says Max Muncy. Mark Edson says Peterson. THP Knob says Will Smith. The correct answer is Fred Flores again with Max Muncy. 6 RBIs led the Dodgers. So Fred Flores.
How many did Mookie? Do you have how many Mookie had?
Let me see. I do not. I do not.
Okay.
Okay, so we got three more here. We're going pitching. Okay, we're going pitching.
Great.
Not great. You're 0 for 3. You could still get these. Okay. Who of the Dodgers pitchers made the most appearances in the World Series? World Series only.
I feel like this one's going to be. Is it Trinan?
Okay, Trinan is your guess. I mean, it's a pretty good guess. 3 games in a row at one point. Swagmaster Dank says has to be Trinan. Under the Sea says Baez. Parker says Urias. Mark Edson says Gratterall. Fred Flores says Julio.
Did Julio do 3 also?
None of these are correct. Victor Gonzalez. Gonzalez, 4 appearances. Julio only appeared twice, I believe.
Right. That's what. Yeah. I'm pretty. Yeah.
I believe sure. Gratterall appeared 3 times. So, yes, Gratterall appeared 3 times. But Victor Gonzalez had 4 appearances in 6 games. So Trinan pitched 3 in a row, and that was it. But Victor Gonzalez. So there you go. 4 appearances for Victor Gonzalez. Okay. Who among Dodger pitchers had the most innings pitched without allowing a run? So there were 4 Dodger pitchers that appeared and did not allow a run. Who had the most innings pitched without allowing a run?
Oh, man, this is... Jeez. Let me see. I feel I don't remember Trinan allowed any runs. He might maybe one. I'll go with Trinan again.
Okay, we got two guesses for Urias in here. Urias allowed 2 runs in his start. Bueller says Under the Sea. He allowed a run in his start as well. Victor Gonzalez is a guess from Adrian Salazar. Kershaw, he allowed a run. Trinan is Fred Flores' guess. None of these are correct. I'm going to give you another chance here, Matt, to redeem yourself.
Is it Flora?
Nope.
So I guess this is tricky. Like going with
Come
volume
on, Matt.
of a starter.
Under the Sea. Under the Sea just came through and got this one right. It's his second guess, so I can't give him a point on this. But you should get this, Matt.
Oh, is it Alex?
Alex freaking Wood. 4 innings pitched, scoreless innings for the Dodgers. Under the Sea. I'll give you a half a point. That'll be the tiebreaker. Right. Under the Sea. If you end up tied with Fred here with 1 to go, if you get this one before he does, I will give you the tie, okay? Alex Wood, 4 innings pitched. Okay, here's a fun one.
That would have been my game. What game was I arguing? Game 4 starter, Alex Wood?
Yes.
Or game 5?
Well, would it have been game 6?
Game 6. Game 6, yeah, sorry. Game 6 starter, Alex Wood.
Or game 2.
No.
because Urias was game 2.
I knew that yeah.
Okay,
anyway.
Here we go. Aside from Clayton Kershaw, who got 2 wins, and Walker Buehler, who got 1 win, which Dodger pitcher recorded the other win in this series?
Julio.
Julio is your guess.
Yes.
It's not correct.
Oh, jeez.
They lost his start.
This was not great.
Julio was everybody's guess in there, by the way. So congratulations, I'll say, to Fred Flores, because Fred Flores is going to be our winner with 2 correct answers here. The correct answer, this one's tricky, but the correct answer was Victor Gonzalez. Victor Gonzalez got the game 6, game 6 victory, which I don't think I ever realized this, that like in a bullpen game like that, actually I screwed that up because I think Urias did get the win. He got the win in game 6. So I think I screwed that up.
I think it depends. They might have changed it at what, because I remember thinking, he got the save, but then right after the game, I think he was credited with the win. They may have changed it after the fact.
Let me see, because now that I'm thinking about this.
Because it is up to kind of the official scorer's discretion, like when there isn't necessarily.
Okay, so Urias he was the pitcher in the game when the Dodgers took the lead in game 6, but he was not credited with the win. Was he credited?
I feel like they must have changed that.
They did credit him with the save. Trinan got a save and Urias got a save. So the winner in game 6 was actually Victor Gonzalez.
I'm gonna have to dispute that.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying baseball reference. I just wrote it down without even thinking, and I was like, wait a minute. Urias was definitely in the game. He came in, they were losing 1-0, and then they went ahead 2-1. So I don't even know.
That's a strange ruling.
Yeah, I mean, because Gonzalez. So and what's weird is Gonzalez wasn't even the pitcher right before him. Now Gonzalez had 1 1/3 scoreless with 3 strikeouts, but that was so I just learned that, by the way, that in a bullpen game, the scorer just kind of gets to pick whichever reliever he wants to have the win. Yeah. I just assumed. So anyways, there you go. So Fred Flores, congratulations. I don't know what to tell you there. I mean,
I'm going to say I went 2 for 6, and that puts me more or less in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, and just to be clear, Fred Flores and Under the Sea both guessed Julio. So Fred Flores would have been the winner in that scenario, even if we did give points to Urias. So we are being fair here. Fred, congratulations. Like I said, you've got to follow us. You've got to be subscribed to the channel on YouTube, and then you've got to follow us either on Facebook or on Twitter. I think you're coming to us on Facebook tonight. So just make sure you
send us a message.
Or you're on YouTube. So send us a message either on Twitter or on Facebook. My Twitter handle, Matt's Twitter handle are both on here, or DodgerBlue1958, and we'll get you in the right place. So we appreciate you joining. I'll just throw out some World Series stats, and then we do have one question that was asked, which I think Parker asked, which was a good one. The best Dodger team ever. So we're gonna get to that here in a moment. But let me just run through some stats. I found this to be interesting. Corey Seager, he finished 8 of 20, so a .400 batting average with 2 home runs. he got on base at a 556 clip. So more than 1 out of every 2 times Corey Seager came up, he got on base. Justin Turner, 8 for 25. As I said, 4 doubles, 2 home runs, and a 720 slugging percentage. Max Muncy, 7 for 22 with 5 walks and a team high 6 RBIs. Jock Peterson, sneaky, 4 for 10 with 2 walks. So he also had a 500 on base percentage. Mookie Betts, 7 for 26 with 2 home runs, 4 steals. So that was a huge number for Mookie Betts there. But it is kind of crazy to look back, and the Dodgers only had 4 guys who hit over 270 in the World Series. On the pitching side, the Dodgers only had 1 player pitch more than 7 innings. That was Kershaw. He went 11 2/3 with a .86 whip, 2.31 ERA, and 14 strikeouts. Julio Urias finishes 7 innings pitched, 13 strikeouts, a .71 whip, and a 2.57 ERA. And then as far as appearances, as I said, Gratterall 3 appearances, Kolarek, McGee, and Wood all were the relievers who not allow a run. So pretty impressive stuff all the way around. But Parker asked a question, and I think I'll go out on this one, and I'll ask people who are in the chat watching with us to join in as well. Is this the best Dodger team ever? I'll start out by saying I think there's probably some disagreement about if this is even the best Dodger team of the last 4 years. I think this is obviously they won the World Series, so I think they clinch if we're talking best. I don't know how you could say, for example, that like the 2017 team was better than this one. The 2017 didn't win. They were cheated. We get it. To me, I can't really speak to the 88 team, that kind of thing. I know this. Those teams, if I'm remembering right, were not like the favorites. They weren't dominant forces. You know, when you read people that follow baseball and know baseball talk about this Dodger team, and they say things like, this is one of the greatest teams ever assembled, it's hard not to believe this is the best Dodger team ever assembled.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it kind of comes down to, sort of semantics and splitting hairs. I think this is definitely the most talent they've ever had on the roster.
Yeah.
I then could argue against it being quote unquote the best team because it didn't really piece together perfectly. If you look at Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May, they kind of struggled in the swing roles that they were filling early into the postseason. Whereas the 2017, which I had argued I put ahead of the 2019 team, which technically, won more games.
Yeah.
Then obviously flamed out in the first round. But I felt before that even happened, that 2017 was probably still the best Dodgers team I think we've seen.
Yeah.
You saw Cody Bellinger hitting at an unbelievable level. Jock Peterson, even though you just rattled off his stats, he was productive in the World Series, but I think that was a better overall showing for him in the postseason.
Yeah.
In 2017, Brandon Morrow was lights out until he pretty much
until he wasn't.
Until he was asked to pitch seven games in a row.
Yeah.
In the World Series, Kenley Jansen was still dominant. I know he had the 2 blown saves, but the 1 at Minute Maid, I think obviously it comes with proverbial asterisk. Clayton Kershaw was still, sort of in the prime of his career.
Yeah.
Obviously, they didn't have Walker Buehler, so there's
or
that
Mookie Betts.
Or Mookie Betts, but Justin Turner was unreal that year.
Jansen was better.
Yeah. So for me, I think I still put best team, and like I said, I'm factoring in kind of how that is then pieced together, especially for the postseason. Kenta Maeda, switching into the bullpen and dominating that role. So I'm going to put 2017 at the top. If you look at it just from a sheer talent perspective, then yes, like there's no arguing that this year's team is the best in that sense.
Okay. Well, Adrian Salazar Lopez agrees with you. He's got 2017. Swagmaster Dank, I can't speak to the older teams, but I know the Dodgers were a juggernaut. Richard Gararte says this year's team, hands down. Parker points out, and I can't admit that I knew this, 1955, I guess the Dodgers had 5 Hall of Famers. As he wrote that, I was kind of doing math. I mean, Kershaw's a Hall of Famer. Mookie Betts probably ends up in the Hall of Fame. I think from there, you're probably like Bellinger, Seager, and Buehler, I think have the potential to get there.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure there's anybody else that even sniffs it. So you're not going to get to 5 Hall of Famers because I don't think Seager, Bellinger, and Buehler are all going to have perfect careers that get them. But Parker does point out, as I was sort of hinting at, 88, they were underdogs. Mark says 2019 was the best team, but they came up short. He says if 2020 was a 162-game year, they would have shown they were the best team. Under the sea, all I know is that this year's team is super talented. And then Richard says, no doubt 2020. not just Dodger team, but could be top 10 ever. I do think, 2019, it's hard to argue in the sense that, so obviously Mookie Betts and Blake Treinen get added to that group, but to subtract two guys who go on to finish in the top 3 in Cy Young voting in the American League in Ryu and Kenta Maeda, it's hard to argue. Cody Bellinger MVP season. So I think a case could be made for 2017, 2019, and 2020. I think at the end of the day, Mookie Betts adding what he added and the fact that they won. I can't get a pass, and I'm not sort of downplaying anybody who disagrees, but they won the World Series, and they did it in unbelievable. We could talk. I get pissed on Twitter today because somebody was trying to say this season's World Series was somehow diminished. It's just nonsense. To have won the playoffs with no home field advantage, to have had to go through an extra round where a 2-game losing streak would have cost you the entire season. I get like the Braves in the NLCS and the Rays in the World Series. These aren't historic teams, but to say that this season's World Series somehow diminished is nonsense to me. So I think at the end of the day, 2020 is the best Dodger team of my lifetime so far.
Yeah, and kind of to your point, not to go off topic or anything, but the idea that whoever would have won the World Series this year, that it's diminished in any sense, I don't understand. I know 60 games in the regular season is not what any of us really wanted.
Yeah.
But considering, kind of the global pandemic and the challenges that has presented, it was the best it was going to get. And it took, I think, a focus from each individual player, each team to commit to the protocols and even, kind of then go above and beyond, which Justin Turner and Clayton Kershaw really enforced the Dodgers doing, because they understood, hey, we've been here before and we've fallen short. Like we know what kind of team we have. We don't want anything silly to kind of derail us. And like you said, the expanded postseason in a best of 3, if you lose that game 1, look, the Marlins swept the Cubs.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
It's not. That bothers me too. I don't get that argument. We still get comments. I haven't figured out. They come from different fan bases. I think it's more to just kind of belittle the Dodgers kind of winning the World Series this year. Yeah. What I think is a bit of an interesting conversation, we don't need to completely dive into it now, is you consider the Dodgers a dynasty?
Yeah. That's a good one. We'll save that one. We got a couple shows coming up this week, or I should say in the next couple of weeks. So we'll save that one. But it's a great question, Parker. We appreciate you asking it. I think it's one of those things that there's no definitive way to answer it other than to say that it's fun. And the fact that the Dodgers have had so many years that are in contention, I think speaks to what a good time it is to be a Dodger fan. And of course, the biggest reason is because they're World Series champions. So we got some people in here, by the way, that definitely say it's a dynasty. So we'll save that conversation for another one. So here's what I'll say. If you missed our NLCS edition of this, please go back and watch. Daniel and I did it. It was a ton of fun. I also got a chance to interview Craig Goldstein of Baseball Prospectus, who's a Dodger fan. He had some great insight about his thoughts about Dave Roberts. He has some thoughts. And I asked him some fun questions like whether he would pick Walker Buehler, Cody Bellinger, or Corey Seager if he had to choose one for a long-term extension. So that was a good one. And then Matt and I broke down free agency and kind of if we had $25 million to spend, where would we spend it this year? So all those things will be good. We're good. So go back and watch those. Justin Lorber, future Dodgers, we're going to have him on a show next week to talk about the Rule 5 draft, and the Dodgers are set to protect some guys. So check all of that out. DodgerBlue.com. We're doing player reviews. Anybody who appeared for the Dodgers is getting a write-up, so be sure to check that out. And as always, Dodger Blue 1958 on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We'd appreciate the follow, and you can engage with us there. So that's Matt Moreno. I'm Jeff Spiegel. Thanks for joining us tonight as we rewind the World Series of 2020. And as always, I want to make sure you all remember, the Dodgers are still champs!